Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Canadian Gamers. Can you believe we actually did two episodes? This is it's a Christmas miracle.
Yes, it is.
That's
It,
it.
it, it is now a weekly podcast, apparently. Jared just texted me wanting to do a podcast, and I'm here. I have no idea what we're going to talk about.
That's it.
Since nothing has changed since last week, but
Everything has changed.
apparently we're doing one.
All right, so you're gonna start. How are you enjoying Dragon Quest Monsters?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. I'm now like over 10 hours in, and it's a lot of fun. I like the aspect of every time I go to a new area, trying to catch all the monsters, and then once I'm done with the boss, going back and see what new monsters I can fusion together. So that's pretty addictive. So yeah, so far I have to say I was a bit I thought I over emphasized how complicated this game was last week. It's not as bad as I
Mm,
said. The thing is, though, I still think this game does a terrible job of explaining. I think
mm.
most of my tips and guides and what's not I found on YouTube or elsewhere. So
Mm.
that might be why I know a bit more what I'm doing right now. But still, lots and lots of fun. Really having fun with this. So hopefully I can keep it up. Maybe I think I'm spending too much time creating creatures and not actually playing the game. So like
That's okay.
I'm 10 hours in or whatever, but I'm not very far in the
No,
game. So
that
maybe I'm just wasting time here, but
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
we'll
It's
see.
worth it. It's and so the thing I was curious about was when you're in the areas and stuff, because we didn't talk about this. There's the four seasons, right? Do you wait through every season or what do you do?
Yeah, I kind of do because there's new monsters that pop up, but
Yeah.
sometimes what I'll do, because I know you're supposed to go and beat the boss or beat something, and then the monsters are easier to recruit. But my OCD, I can't. I have to catch them before. I don't know why.
Oof.
I need to do that. So I usually do that, and then once I beat the monster, sometimes a few new creatures will pop up. Like I'm sure I'm missing some sometimes, but yeah, I try to get pretty much every creature I can from each region
Okay, be
before I
careful
move
because
on.
that's gonna get really difficult to do when you get into like the higher
Yeah.
echelons there. Because like even when you beat the final boss of the whole game, there are some where you have to max out your wisdom or your attack stat in order to even have a chance. Like otherwise, you're going to be at like 0.01
Okay.
recruiting, and like it's like next to impossible. You can do it, but it's difficult. And the other thing, you texted me the other day where like, oh, the story is like, oh gosh. I agree with that. I'm gonna review the game. I've got most of the stuff set up. Saturday is my day. So Saturday, it's go time. The Switch gets connected, and I'm just gonna get a bunch of different footage from Dragon Quest Monsters. But yeah, my two complaints are exactly that. To new people, like getting into the series can prove very difficult because they don't do a great job of walking you through. Like even the stats, like do you even know that your attack stat and your wisdom stat are the only stats that count for like recruiting. Nothing else really counts.
I don't know much. All I know is that if you attack the monster before, it helps a bit.
Yeah.
And if you fail to recruit it and it gives you a second or third chance, the second, third chance you have, you're hitting less. That's pretty much it. Yeah,
So this is
that
the thing. So this is the thing. And the other thing, the other big like complaint for me was just the story. Like the early parts of the story I found boring as hell. Like I won't lie, I skipped a lot of the story. It's only when you get to a certain point where it's like, oh wait, what? And I don't want to spoil anything, but you'll see. Well, hopefully you'll see. And if you don't see, then I'll spoil it for you. But anyways, okay, cool. So I wanted to start with that. For everybody, if you're wondering what the hell like this weird random background is, it's because I've got calls today for this is my tech company that I started. So a little bit of free
Advertising,
advertisement.
yeah.
Exactly. Why not? Okay. So today's episode is really going to focus on sort of the retro, the reason why I'm even coming back to YouTube, actually. And so, Stephen, even if you don't play these games anymore, it doesn't matter. You have nostalgia. So you have memories of these things, so we can at least talk about some of that. And I'm curious to get your take on a couple of these things. So I made you watch a video, so we're gonna start with that. So for all of you, I'm gonna see if I put the video up while we're talking. I don't know. Sometimes with copyright, it'll be muted, so you won't hear anything. So hopefully that'll be okay. But if it gets blocked, I'll have to remove it. Um, so at the Video Game Awards, whenever they were, like I feel like it was like a few months ago or something, Sega had literally, I think it's like a minute and a half or something video that showcased five series that they're bringing back. I think it was like Jet Set, Crazy Taxi, Shinobi, Streets of Rage, and Golden Axe, I think are the ones that they showed. And it's weird to me. Like just that when I saw that trailer, I was like, the little fanboy in me was like, "Oh yay!" But times have changed so much. It's like I like to compare it to like Indiana Jones. Like you will be hard pressed to find a bigger Indiana Jones fan than me. And yet, whenever anyone asks me about Indiana Jones, I'm like, "Yeah, there's three films." Like, and that's because like I don't count anything that came after. I'm like, yeah, yeah, no, no. There's three movies. That's it.
They only made two more, right?
Yeah, they made two more, exactly.
I haven't seen the last
Me
one.
neither.
Is
And
it out?
it is, and that's my
Okay.
point. It bombs so bad. Now, listen, there's so many reasons why, right? That you can go and you could say like, oh, there was all like, political messaging in it. There was whatever the case may be. But there's something that I don't hear often, that David Jaffe, believe it or not, said in a YouTube video a long time ago, actually, that resonated with me, and I'm surprised that more people don't talk about this. And that is the fact that, like, Indiana Jones was a product of its time in the sense that, like, you had those three movies come out. They were really, really good. They've inspired legions of other, like in our context, Tomb Raider, Uncharted, all these sorts of things. But David Jaffe asked a really good question, was like, has not has our taste changed, not that, but because they didn't continue in comics and movies and all of that for years and years and years, and because it was this like massive period where Indiana Jones really wasn't in our sort of like pulp culture, it's like, do the younger generation even care? And that was interesting to me. It's like Mario. Everybody cares about Mario. Yeah, because Mario's been in our pop culture since 1984-ish
The
and has
movie
never
was a
left.
huge success too.
You know?
Did you see the
Um,
movie?
which one? The
The new
the
one,
yeah,
Mario,
yeah, yeah,
last year, the year before?
yeah.
Like fantastic.
Yeah, man, I
Seen
laughed
it
my
even like
ass
I
off.
thought like they did a great job with the French version. Like I watched both versions and there was a few jokes that I thought in the French version were even funnier.
Mm,
And it's like I don't see that. It was like kind of like Disney quality because
mm,
Disney, I don't know about Disney movies now. I don't watch as much as I used to, but when I was a kid, they were famous for their French versions. They
mm.
had, I think it's because they've always been a worldwide company, so they
Yeah,
put a lot of effort into making sure like most companies when they do a French version or an Italian version, like they'll just put the English song with subtitles or not. Yeah, you'll be watching a movie where the characters are speaking fluent French, and then for some reason they'll start singing in English. But
mm,
with Disney movies, it was like they actually made French songs and all
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah.
And for the Mario movie, they did the same thing. It was very well done. I'm
Mm,
sure it's the same thing about all the different languages. And I think it made it over 1 billion box office. Like it's
mm,
just such a huge success
mm.
that like like you're right. Like kids today, they still like Mario, and that I don't think that's the the case with Indiana Jones or the Sega games or the
So
Sega games you made me watch.
so that's kind of like the point that I'm trying to get at, right? Like that's the connection that I'm trying to draw here is to say like the us. So like our generation is like, let's be honest, getting over 40 years old. Gaming, it's not that it's rare, it's much more prevalent today than it was, say, 5 years ago, for that sort of age group. So it's becoming more and more common as the time goes on. Like now, if I were to say, do I know anyone 10 years older than me that games? I don't know anyone that's 10 to 15 years older than me that games. Not a single one.
Do you know
They,
anyone that's alive that's 10 and 15 years older than you?
hilarious, hilarious. But like you, I can totally see you in your 60s still playing Pokemon, unless something changes. Like, why not? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
why would you stop? Unless the passion goes there's a reason you're not playing, like God of War 45 or, any of these sorts of things. But so like I understand with these Sega games that there's nostalgia for a subset of people, and I understand that there's always going to be an interest in quality games as a whole. But exactly to what we're talking about, like, does anyone care about Golden Axe as an example?
I don't want to
Like,
sound rude, but for those series, did anyone ever care? Like
well,
I know the Sega fans, they really like them, and I'm sure they found some sort of success. But we're not talking about multi-million-dollar franchises here. We're talking about Golden Axe for like that has always been a niche audience for those games, right? And
yeah,
I know Sega
so
fans are probably screaming at me right now, but
yeah,
like
probably.
these games have never been multi-million sellers, and now like 20 years later, they're trying to make it back, and good for them. I'm not saying this is bad for the industry, but I it's like remember like a few years ago when the Amico was announced or whatever, and
Yeah,
we're like, is there an audience for this? And like the CEO
exactly.
came
Thank
in our
you.
comments, and we were like, and it's like 2 years or 3 years later, and that thing I don't think is even released now. It's
No,
not going to be an app for a phone or something.
yeah, yeah,
It's like I don't know. Nostalgia is huge for some games, but you have to have it has to have been a massive success
yeah.
before. And these are not like massive successes before.
Well, here's the reality. Like Golden Axe is like, let's just stick with Golden Axe. So like Golden Axe was a very big hit in the arcades. How many it sold and stuff, I have no idea, right? But we're talking like NES era here, right? So like a big, huge hit to me. I can't, like, I don't have a measuring stick, so I don't know. Like, my local arcade, Golden Axe was a huge hit. Yeah, okay, whoop-de-doo, right? What does that mean, right? I know it wasn't as big as Street Fighter 2 because Street Fighter 2 had a lineup outside the door and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But exactly, like it's hard to gauge. And when you look at like the Sega Genesis as a whole, yeah, okay, maybe it sold 1 million units. Did it? Golden Axe 2, 3, 6, 9, absolutely not. Like 100% nowhere near the success, excuse me, of the original Golden Axe. I would be shocked if I'm wrong, ladies and gentlemen, prove me wrong. But I would be very, very surprised with that. And this is Genesis. So like if I look at like those five titles that they announced, I know that there's a lot of love from the older like gamers out there, but I just think of like newer gamers, like your kids. Would they even care? And and again, we have to be careful because a good game is a good game is a good game, right? Like if your kids like what's the one where it's like a soccer ball in your cars? What is it?
Rocket League.
Yeah, Rocket League. So Crazy Taxi is a fun game. Like that was a very fun game. It's totally possible that, your kids pick it up and like, oh, this is a fun little wacky, little type of thing. But the others, I'm just not sure. Like, I don't know. I hope for everyone that's listening, I hope you don't like rage on us. We're not saying what Sega's doing is stupid or whatever. What I'm trying to say on my side is like, you didn't foster these franchises when you had a chance. Like, if we go back to the Golden Axe, I do not count the Saturn release at all on for that. That was not the same type of game at all. Dreamcast was nowhere to be found. PS2, nowhere to be found. You had like rando modernization. So yes, okay, it was to be found. You had modernizations and they sucked. Like they totally tanked. And then you went massive periods with no new entries. So to do what they're doing now, I'm just wondering kind of like, is there an audience? Streets of Rage, of all of those, Streets of Rage has the highest chance of success because it was the most popular. Like that did sell millions of copies on the Genesis. But even that, like how well did Streets of Rage 4 do? Like I have no idea when it was released on that was last gen, I think, on PS4 and I think.
I'm not sure,
I don't know,
honestly, but
but
I think it's recent. So
yeah,
maybe
that one I can see okay because you just had a recent release, and if it did sell well, fantastic. You'll have people that will say like, oh yeah, that was fun or whatever. But I'd love to hear people's comments on this specific subject of like, how does a company like Sega rejuvenate franchises that have been dormant in some cases for like 25 years? Like, how do you do that? And to Steven, to your point, like I hate saying does anyone care? Of course I care. Jarrod cares.
yeah.
Like it's just that it's like,
It's
is
a it,
there an
it's a
audience?
gross mis exaggeration that I was saying is because like I never cared about this, so therefore the world must not care. It's just selfish. Of course, I know there are franchises out there that were massive success, like Sonic the Hedgehog. I've never been a huge fan, but I'm not stupid. I know it's a huge
Mhm.
franchise, but that's something that even though you could argue they did not do as good a job at Nintendo with their icon Mario, there was Sonic games on every system. It's still been there. There's been
Yeah,
movies
yeah,
that
yeah,
like successful live action movies recently with Jim Carrey, and
yeah,
they've made cartoons. It's around. Kids, if
yeah,
you ask who is Sonic is, they know who it is because it's
yeah.
still around today. My kids know. They watch Sonic Prime. I think is the most recent cartoon on Netflix now, and they like it. So it's cool. You have to keep these things alive. I'm not saying
Exactly.
don't try with Golden Axe and all that stuff, but like when you made me watch that video, it wasn't like but I don't have huge nostalgia for Sega. I've never been a Sega boy, but for people who are, I'm pretty sure they must have been really happy with that
Yeah,
announcement.
like me. So this is where like we'll see who actually watches the video here because all the rage comments. Like so for me when I was never a fan of what was it, Jet Set Radio or Jet Grind Radio or whatever that was called. I was never a big fan, but Crazy Taxi I really enjoyed. That was I mean loved that on the Dreamcast. Shinobi goes without saying. Even Golden Axe, I had a blast with that, and I never ever liked what Sega did with that franchise. I always was like, there was so much potential for that, like a medieval sort of beat 'em up. And it's so funny because then years later, Capcom would do such a better job with Dungeons and Dragons, their beat 'em up. And I loved it. Like, and there's still something there. Look at the Turtles. What was it? The one with the Shredder was in the title. What was
Yeah,
that called?
Shredder's Revenge, something like that. It was in 2022. I had a blast with that one.
Me too. That
Yeah.
was that was absolutely great. So like for me, it's like, hey, there's potential to do that kind of stuff, like, but even Turtles, that's not a fair example because Turtles has been around forever, right? Like the in modern day media. So anyway, all of this to say, like I wish them a lot of luck. I was super stoked when I saw Shinobi. I loved the art style. I was like, oh, that's gonna be if they do it well, that could be so badass. But the moral of the story is really the Indiana Jones thing of like, is there a market? Like, I'm really curious. And Xbox is doing, I don't know if you've heard about this. Um, I think it was part of the acquisition would take no. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this, so I forget. Anyway, whatever. There's an Indiana Jones game coming out on the Xbox, and like I watch it and I'm like, I get all the, it makes me happy in the pants, right? Like, because like it's for me, like it's a game that's like designed for my generation that went to see Indiana Jones, or even if you didn't see them, if you were a little young to see them in the cinema, that grew up, like they're part of your childhood. It looks amazing. Like it looks absolutely amazing. But I can't help but like pull back and be like, okay, but is there that big of a market anymore for a character that was dormant for a long time? And not only was dormant for a long time, but the recent installments bombed, especially the last one. Like it did horribly. And so,
It's funny because I watched The Crystal Skull, and that's was feels like 10, 15 years ago.
it
Maybe I'm
was,
exaggerating.
it was.
And when I watched that, I was like, Harrison Ford is way too old for this. You can
Yeah.
clearly
Yeah.
tell that whenever there's action, it's not him because he can't. And now he's in his 80s.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know why they don't not reboot, but maybe have him as a character in those movies, but he's not the main character anymore because he's too old to
Well,
play him.
yeah. No, dude, exactly. And it's like, I joked in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I was like, hey, it's geriatric drones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And then this one, I mean, I didn't even watch it because I was like, my brother went to see it and he called me right away. He was like, do not go. Because he knows I'm such a huge indie fan and was like, just don't. He's like, because like it's gonna scar you. And yeah, it's like I never understood like it's a really good character, really good, mythos. If you didn't want to do the James Bond, like where you'd recast Indiana Jones, then just let it let it be. Like it's okay. Like let it go. I know other companies have tried to sort of follow like National Treasure, right? They tried to follow that with Nicolas Cage, like that kind of adventure, action, humor type of hodgepodge type thing. Depending on you, that either was a success or it wasn't. The Mummy with Brandon Fraser, same type of thing, very similar action adventure type things. But I appreciated that you're trying something new, like Uncharted. Uncharted is the closest. It's why I've always said, like, I love Uncharted because it gives me that feel of indie that like we're exploring, but there's action and there's, and I'm as much as I'm happy the series is, they were able to end the series the way they wanted to end the series. I won't lie, of course. Like part of me is like, oh, we're gonna get another Uncharted, like because I love that experience. It's like Tomb Raider. I'm sad that the modern day Tomb Raiders seem to have just like come to a close. And it's like, because I love that action adventure thing. So, okay. Where was I? Okay, so we're gonna stay on this sort of this thing of retro and whatever because it's very much what everybody asked when I said like want to come back, want to do more videos. I got the video coming up for you on Saturday, which is all about the Polymega. So I don't want to really talk about that situation here because like there's a whole video dedicated to it. But I was always curious about this. Like how how do you feel about that whole sort of scene of emulation, like these consoles that come out that allow you to play ROMs and like what was your thought on this? I probably asked you years ago, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, probably. Uh, it's not for me. I don't mind people doing it. I've never been a huge fan of piracy, and that's a problem. I know you own all these games, probably multiple times, and it's easier for you. And that I don't have problems, but I do know that not all people do that. I have a friend who has like every game you can think of on like available to play that he doesn't want to spend any money on video games,
Mm.
so it's a gray area. But I'm guessing it's way easier for you than picking up all your old consoles and then setting them up to record and whatnot. But
Yeah,
yeah,
like
it's not the case for a lot of people that it just, especially when there's stuff that it's available on the Switch or on the PlayStation or on the Xbox for you to buy when you do that. But everybody has a different opinion on that. I've never been much a fan of piracy in general when it comes to music or movies and games.
mm, that I
Because
remember.
and I've never really heard good arguments for that. Most people it's kind of like they don't want to spend, but they try to spin it in a different way to say that, well, if it would be cheaper, I would
Mm.
anyway. I've never heard a good argument for it, but
Yeah, well, I've actually so I wanted to just touch base on this because here's the situation that I was facing. I was like, I don't mind doing more videos of like vlogs and that kind of stuff. I don't mind at all. But I just don't have the ability to capture footage anymore. So, okay, I can go buy the the little capture card. Okay, sure. Go buy a capture card. Sure. All right. And then, right? Like my PlayStation, my Xbox are connected to my television. Switch, I had bought a second dock. So wonderful, super easy, right? Put the dock right beside the capture card, connected directly into your desktop computer. Away we go, easy peasy. But how in the hell am I going to do that with the Xbox and with the PlayStation? Like I would have to go buy a laptop or something
Mhm.
like that strong enough that would be able to connect in to get like, are you okay? You know what I mean? Like that starts to get really complicated to do that kind of stuff. So this is what I was going through my head. And then people like, oh, Saturn Day, Saturn Day, Saturn Day. And it's like, okay, yes, right. Ladies and gentlemen, I get it. You like Saturn Day, but those games are huge and they take up so much space. And if you have a house or like an apartment or whatever, it's impossible. You know what I mean? Like there's no way. I had over 300, I think it was, Saturn games at my apartment here, and it was out of control. So I put everything into storage. I kept the Saturn itself, but I put like everything else into storage. And then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so every time I want to do a video now, I got to head out to the storage unit, which is about 25 minutes from here. Then I got to dig through boxes and boxes and boxes. And even if I find a way of organizing it right, I'm going to take back what, 2 games, 3 games, 5, 10? Like, where does it stop? And come back, connect everything all up, and then go back and like it was just so much work. And with all the stuff that I was doing, I know I'm complaining right now, but this is what was going on in my head, where I was like, okay, this is this is not an option. Like I can't. There's no way I can do it. I can do the mini consoles like the NES Mini, the SNES Mini, the PlayStation, the whatever, blah blah blah, no problem. Anything that's available on Switch, easy peasy, not a problem. I can easily do that. But anything else, it's pretty much out of like it's impossible. And it was really interesting the feedback that I got from a lot of people where they were like this little guy. So this little thing was really 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 interesting. It's just a video card. So on the Saturn you have the back door. You just slide it into the back door. You have to change the batteries. So I went and well, I don't know where they are. I went and bought some batteries. Um, and this little guy basically acts like an EverDrive. So you can load up all of your CD images. If you're really, if you're really, really, really anti-piracy, like at all, you can take your discs and drop them. So like basically pull the file off the disk itself and upload it onto this little gadget. Obviously, I was not going to do that considering I have every game for the Saturn. So that's where your piracy comes in, right? Like is like technically stealing these particular games. Um, but I was blown away when I started to look into this. I was really, really blown away of like what options are available today. Like I've been out of it for probably 5 years or so. Like Saturday has been a while. You know what I mean? Like that we haven't done a Saturn Day. It's been quite a while since that. Maybe not 5 years, but it has definitely been a while. And I had no idea how easy it is. And I think that's the thing is that people now, and I'm not gravitating to say if it's right, wrong, all of that, but I do think people are gravitating more and more towards it because of the ease. It is friggin' easy to do today. Like it's crazy. When you look at devices like the Polymega, when you look at the analog systems right now, and analog, like they specifically said, we're not here for piracy. Like they don't allow you to play ROMs, but you buy an EverDrive, there you go. You have
Hmm.
every game ever. And so how I feel about it, the piracy, I agree with you. Piracy, 100%. I've just not been me. I was never that guy. I am preservation. So I do think we need a repository somewhere because so many of these games, the majority of the games, you can't buy anywhere.
Hmm.
Think of the Saturn library, right? Where do you buy Panzer Dragoon? Like Saga. Where do you buy Panzer Dragoon Saga? Where do you buy Shining Force 3? Where do you buy Shining the Holy Ark? And like all of those games, you can't. They're gone. Like they're gone, gone, gone forever and ever and ever. So I do agree with that there needs to be some kind of repository that we don't lose these games forever because it's like music and movies. Like I hate reading stories about like the original Phantom of the Opera from like I think it was like 1912. It's gone. Like they have like the beginning of it, they have a bit of the middle, and they have a bit of the end, and they've edited the movie together. But that's not the real movie. The real movie is gone forever because it was lost in I think it was a fire that Universal had, if I remember right, like somewhere. So for the preservation, I'm all for that. I am all 100% for that, especially with companies like Nintendo who close their services forever, right? Like Castlevania Rebirth. Was that the one on the Wii?
We were, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like if you want to play that today, you can't. It's gone. It's just gone. Like forever. So that aspect I really like I get, but I just wish there was a way that we could do it legally. So I can tell you right now, like I'm not going to review any games that are available to purchase. I won't do that. I'm not going to do that. I'll either buy the game like on Switch or whatever. But in the case of the Saturn and the Turbo Graphics, if I own those games, I'm gonna use the emulator thing just to make it easier, to be really honest. But that's why I wanted your opinion on that. And I would love everyone else's
Yeah,
opinion.
if I
Like,
can just say just one last thing on that, it's just like I've mentioned this in the past, like with your Castlevania Rebirth example with Nintendo, like you say forever, and it's not exactly true. Like Konami still owns that. If they want to release it at a later point, they can. I'm not saying they will, but
yeah.
it's still their IP, and they have, if they want to sell you that IP, it's their right. That's why I think it's a gray area when people complain that these games aren't available anymore. There's nothing like Nintendo. I'm pretty sure eventually most of their games they find their way back. It might take 10 years,
Mhm.
but so it's their property. They have a right to do as they please with it. And some people don't like the fact that not everything, some people think that they should have everything they want when they want, when they want.
Yeah,
So,
no, and I think that's
but
fair. I think
I
it's fair.
understand what you mean with the Phantom of the Opera case and stuff like that. Like it's fair, but I think that it's a gray area there.
But it is, right? And that's what makes these conversations interesting. That's the whole thing, is because it's not a clear cut thing. Because you're 100% right. that it's the company owns that property. It is up to them. I think it's me. I'm just selfish. The truth. Like, no, no, it's the truth. Like, I like some of these things, like never being able to play the original Zelda again would be heartbreaking. You know, like for me personally. Now that's not, I don't have to worry about that, right? I have 952 different ways to
Yeah.
play the original Zelda. But anyways, so I thought that was interesting. And I was curious to hear your thoughts on just the state of retro. I know you haven't been in it as much, like sort of like me, but I'm wondering, like, have you been following along with some of the posts and stuff I've been putting on YouTube, like the community channel?
The recent post, a few, I don't always know how to access those, but I saw like that thing you posted. I had no clue what it was.
This
And
thing,
yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
this little thing. Did you see that from
Okay, it's
yesterday?
no, I did not. So yeah,
So this
this
is
is stuff that I don't know what they do, what they eat, what they're called.
Dude, this is wild. Okay. This is the last little subtopic for today. And how are we what's the time? I don't even know how long we've been recording. Nice. Zoom, you rock. um so I have been just so unbelievably impressed with the state of the retro scene, and I'm pretty sure it's your fault.
Probably.
So yeah, I'm
Pers-
pretty sure. No, what I mean is I think it's people like in their mid 30s, 40 that want to keep playing their games. And the old cards, it's sad to say, but like those old cartridges, they're slowly but surely dying. Either the batteries are all starting to leak. In the case of like the old arcade cabinets, a lot of those things had suicide batteries, which you can't change. You can't actually replace the battery without killing the board, or you can, but it's dangerous to do because if the charge dissipates before you have enough time to put on the new battery, they're dead. That's it. It's gone forever because of the way the thing was. It's basically like an anti-piracy type of control mechanism from way back in the day. So, anyways, I'm sure it's your exact generation and mine that are like, well, I want to play these games forever. They're selfish like me. And so they have come up with the craziest stuff I've ever seen. Like, dude, this is unreal. This little pink thing, okay, is who does this? Like, look at this thing. Who makes this? Like, this is like voodoo magic to me that someone actually built this, goes into your Sega Saturn, and that's it. Like you can play every single disc game on the original hardware. There's no emulation at all. It's 100% as if you're running the original game. I don't even understand that. Like my brain is too small to understand that. And then you get little things like this, where the Analog Duo, so the new system that Analog put out for the TurboGrafx, they made the whatever the cart or whatever you card slot a little low. So like EverDrives, they're like chunky because that's where you put the SD card and stuff like that. So this guy, this what the hell are they called? Guinea Pig Games created a little adapter that you put in and it fits perfectly into the Analog Duo, and then you can slide your EverDrive here. You don't have to worry, you're good to go. I just cannot believe how crazy people have gotten. And dude, you should see with the PlayStation, with the PS2, there's people, they've got devices that like slide into the hard drive port and bypass. Like, it's nuts to me how far people have gone in just like I'd say 5, 6 years. It is unbelievable. It's crazy. Do you have any comment on any of that?
I could explain this to you, of course,
Of
all of it.
course.
I understand all of it, but we don't have the time for it right now, so we'll save it for a future video for a Steven Tech Talk. Explain things to Jared so he can his little brain can understand it.
Please do. Please do. But all this to say, like it's been really, really illuminating now. If you are a previous collector or what have you of like some of these machines, because truly it does make it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to be able to just leave a Sega Saturn connected and that's it. You don't ever have to like every single game that's ever been on that platform in any language, in any region, whatever, you're good to go. It's like having access to, like Steam where like everything is essentially unlocked. And what's really cool, and I didn't really pay any attention to this, I had no idea that they had issued re-releases of like original controllers. That is pretty wild, man. So
Like
I
for
don't know if
which platform?
so I've seen the Genesis, I've seen the Saturn. I don't know if there's more, but these are like officially licensed by Sega that I think it was 8 bit though, I want to say, or was it retro? I'm not sorry, I'm not sure. One of the the guys that make the third party manettes actually officially licensed the Sega Saturn
Oh
controller
yeah.
in like 2023. Like I don't even understand what the hell is happening in like the retro scene right now, but I am sure it's our generation. I'm sure. I'm sure it's us who's like, oh, I'd like to go and play that. I didn't have that opportunity or whatever. I'm sure of it because there's no way that this is coming from your kids. I can't
No.
imagine.
No, I was joking with my girlfriend the other day. Like, my youngest is playing a game called Roblox on his tablet, and I was like, "Why do my kids play these crappy games when they have shelves and shelves of awesome games they could try, but they keep going to those crappy games like
Mm.
Roblox? It sucks, man. I'm sorry, it's terrible." And they're playing that crap. It's like I don't understand these
And how
kids.
old? How old?
He's 6.
6. Do you
Gonna be
remember what you
7
were
soon.
playing? What were
When I
you
was
playing?
6, I was
Yeah,
playing Zelda and Mario.
exactly. I don't
Yeah.
get it. My nephews are the exact same thing. Like they're playing like blip blops sort of stuff, and I'm like, guys, like for the young one, it's really funny. It's like, I'm gonna make you a man. Like sit him down. Here, take this. And it's just like, what is this? Like, I just don't get it. I don't
Uh,
get it at all. But whatever. There you go, man. We did a podcast. Are you happy?
yes, very.
Good. Good. So next week, it's your job to come up with something to talk about.
Next week we might not actually be able to do one. I have a medical appointment, so we might skip a week here and there. But that's better because we'll have more to talk about the following week.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm serious. If you think of anything like this today, you didn't need to play video games, right?
No. When do you ever need to play video
Right.
games?
Exactly.
Honestly, but I was playing Dragon Quest Monsters when you texted me, so if I don't finish the game, it's your fault.
That's true. Okay, well, listen, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of very interesting comments. And for you, Stephen, send me the title, send me the description, and if you have any ideas of what you want for a thumbnail, like do we show us again with the life jacket?
Yeah, we need to do a custom, not with the life jacket this time, but we need to do a custom thumbnail.
Okay, so send
Do
me a
you have
few
a
texts.
Yeah, I will. We'll talk about and this.
Yeah. All right, I'm ending this. Take care, everybody.